Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of ZEFE Today's Opening Bell, or as we call it, ZEFE Deschiderea De Astăzi. Special edition because I'm sure you've noticed that this is a video interview. It's not a traditional phone call interview like we used to our viewers. Being a special edition, I could have never thought of a better way than to make the first video interview than to invite the CEO of the biggest listed Romanian company on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Therefore, today we have with us Christina Verchere, the CEO of OMV Petrom. Good morning. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Good morning, Olivia. Nice to see you.
Before we begin our discussion about the financial results, the quarterly financial results that Petrom published yesterday, and of course to get to know the never-ending story of Neptun Deep, I would like to give a few information about Petrom. As I said, the biggest Romanian listed company, nearly 4 billion euros as a market capitalization. And in its shareholder structure, we can also find all of the 7 second pillar pension funds, meaning that almost 8 million future Romanian pensioners are indirectly investors in Petrom. From my point of view, that must be quite some responsibility for Petrom. What is your opinion about this?
I mean, I think what I think it does is it reflects just the importance of the company to Romania, and therefore the responsibility, and that's the word I would use, that OMV Petrom has to Romania overall. First and foremost, our role is to provide energy. That's what we do. And I'm really pleased to say that during this very difficult COVID period, we have managed to have uninterrupted supply. Big thank you to the team for making sure that happened. But second, actually, is to be part of the sort of economic fabric of Romania, being such a large company. And with that, I think, comes the responsibility to all of our shareholders and stakeholders as well, to our employees, to the state, because obviously they are a large shareholder as well, but to every person that's in Romania, because I think, just like you said, many of them are pensioners or future pensioners who are shareholders of ours, right? With that, I also believe we have a strong role from a social contribution to society. We're what I call a corporate citizen. You know, we're made up of over 12,000 people, 99% of which are Romanian. So we're part of the country. And so I think having pensioners and future pensioners as our shareholders just reminds us of that importance and that responsibility. But it's one that we take on well. And I think one of the things that's been really important about this year, which I think does become important to shareholders in particular, is the ability to make sure we've had strong operating cash in very volatile times, strong balance sheet, very strong balance sheet, and we've been able to pay the dividend. Right? We didn't touch the dividend. We proposed it actually before COVID, and we honored that dividend. And we believe actually and we just announced this yesterday, that there will be slightly positive free cash flow after dividend, which is a huge achievement for OMV Petrom. And I think, therefore, a message to the pensioners and the future pensioners that they can rely on the company.
I'm glad that you brought into discussion the dividend, because this will be a subject that we will be attacking later on in the discussion. But until dividend, what pays the dividend are the financial results. And Petrom yesterday reported its financial results. We've seen a 70% decline in the 9 months of 2020 compared to the previous period in 2019. But as a quarterly, we've seen a loss in the third quarter, the first one since 2015. How do you comment these results? How do you find the results?
Yes. So I think you're right. There's a particular item about the third quarter results, because we have a special item. The special item is some adjustments we did to the balance sheet, given sort of future oil price assumptions on that. This has been done by many other oil and gas companies around the world, and we made that adjustment. So I think actually when you remove that special item, actually what you see is a positive set of results for the third quarter. So if on a clean CCS operating result, actually we're positive. And 9 months year to date, overall at 1.7 billion lei. That is 47% below what we had this time last year. So there's no doubt that COVID has had a big impact on us overall. Having said that, I think it's still a strong performance in the context of what we have. We have a drop in oil price, we have weakening gas prices, and we had a big drop in demand overall. And so actually, these results in the third quarter are better than we thought they would be when we were at the start of the quarter overall. So that I think what you can also see is this aspect of the value chain of the business. We're in the exploration production component, we're in the refining component, and we're also in the power business, and we're also in the filling stations. And what you saw particularly this year is a big drop actually in the upstream part of the business because of the drop in oil price. Later on, we started to see that impact refining, but it held up quite well to start with, and a strong retail side and a strong, really strong power business. So the integrated nature of our business has made us resilient, I think, in these volatile and turbulent times overall. So actually, for the third quarter, better than we expected it would be.
We've seen the adjustments in the third quarter. The investors were getting ready for these results. As a reaction, we've seen the share price going down only by 2% in the market, by bet going down with 1%. So it was negative and not as abrupt. But for the fourth quarter, the remaining of the year, do you have any intention of making adjustments as well?
So I think when we look at the fourth quarter, I mean, we put out our outlook and confirmed our outlook for the year. With regards to oil price, we stayed at a full year view of a $40 oil, so no change with that. We reduced our view with regards to the refining margin just because of what we've seen actually in the third quarter. We do expect the fourth quarter to be a bit stronger than that overall. On other prices, we sort of said they would roughly stay the same overall. On our capital investment, we stuck at 3 billion, so no changes to our capital investment plans for the last quarter. In the end, from a demand perspective, I mean, we have really just 2 months left at this point in time, but I think it really just depends on restrictions that are put in place by the authorities and how that can impact demand. So one can't totally predict that at this point in time, but we've worked on the basis that there wouldn't be further restrictions, and therefore we believe we can have a relatively strong fourth quarter.
For the oil price on the budget at the beginning of the year, Petrom estimated $60 for Brent. Afterwards, it went down to 40. Yesterday, you went by 40 as well. Do you have any estimates about the end of the year and for the beginning of 2021, as in spring?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. We started our year with a forecast of 60. We quickly revised that to 40. What we've seen with the way OPEC Plus is managing their production targets, I think pretty diligently, combined with what happened in the third quarter with some weather impacts in the US overall. We were seeing it sit between 40 and 45. In the last few days, it's dropped. And I think this is actually what's happening on the share prices as well for oil and gas company. And I think it's dropped on what the world is and how it's watching how COVID is spreading, particularly, I think, in Europe, and expectations of more restrictions coming in place and how that will affect demand and therefore potential oversupply position building as well. So I think we're in for some volatility in this last part, of this year when it comes to price. And I think it will go into the first quarter as well, again, depending on how lockdowns occur.
Before we move to the lockdowns subject, we've seen some record electricity production in the third quarter. Is this the maximum capacity, or can Petrom go any further?
Yeah. So I think you bring up, this interesting aspect of the portfolio that we have. We have the Brazi power plant. It's a swing plant. So therefore, it really is chosen depending on what the spark spreads are doing, electricity prices are doing versus gas. We can be flexible and choose to run it. And in the third quarter, we ran it at almost full capacity. Based on that. And I think this, again, is a really important aspect of the flexibility of our portfolio, being able to respond accordingly. In the end, we provide 10% of the power business in the electricity market in the third quarter. So, and again, I think depending going forward, we'll see what prices do, and therefore whether we choose to produce and sell the gas or whether we choose to sell the electricity of that. But yes, it was running close to capacity.
Okay. Regarding the dividends you've mentioned earlier, this year Petrom paid 1.7 billion RON in dividends from the profit of last year. But given the fact that right now the net profit of 9 months is at around nearly 900 million euros, therefore it's nearly half the amount of total dividends you pay this year. How are the things here? Do you intend to maybe go on the reserve part of Petrom in order to provide a progressive dividend as the company promised in 2018?
It's a fair question, and I can't predict the dividend or share it either, because obviously we have governance to go through. We do have a progressive dividend policy, and we do have a progressive dividend policy. I think we had strong operating cash performance in this year. So not just the financial, but the operating cash performance, I think, was strong in the company, and we have a strong balance sheet. So at this point in time, we see no reason to move up our progressive dividend policy. But again, this will be something that we will communicate at the beginning of next year, and will be subject to the shareholders' approval.
And given the fact that the oil market is volatile and it's in contrast with the lockdowns, we've recently seen in France, in Germany, new restrictions. Is Petrom getting prepared, getting ready for a possible new restriction in Romania as well? Travel restrictions, perhaps. What scenario do you work on this?
Yeah. So at the time of in March, when we started to see the impact and we started to see lockdown coming, we actually activated our crisis management. So we have a crisis management meeting, which brings the board and a collective group of managers together, and this is what we discuss. So we discuss what's going on, where do we think the trends are going, really to make sure the operations can happen. We have three priorities when we run under this crisis management, and they will be the same going forward as well. One is the health and safety of our employees and our customers. This is our top priority of that, and making sure that they're well, because we have a frontline organization of that. So we have 6,000 people out in the front line, making sure that Romania has the energy supply that it needs of that. So the other half of the organization is working from home. So we have a large portion working from home. And then our customers as well, coming into the filling stations, making sure that they can feel protected and that we're providing the best safety measures that we can as they come into that. Our second priority is energy supply. We have to make sure the homes, the hospitals, the schools, the businesses all have the energy that they need to keep working. And I said it earlier, I'm very proud that the team has been able to make sure that we've had no interrupted supply. And the third is the financial health and well-being of the firm. And this is how we run the crisis management team. And so we look at scenarios. What I would say is we went through lockdown before. I was really impressed with the team. We were able to really manage the refinery. The refinery is at the heart of it, really, because all our oil production goes into that refinery. That refinery delivers the products that then go into the filling station. Right? So it's really around the refinery of that. So we work scenarios to really understand it. We managed it before. I am confident that we can manage it going forward. I think at the forefront for me right now is, just because the number of cases are spreading so much, is the health and well-being of the workforce. You need the workforce to be healthy for themselves and for their families. You need it to underpin the energy supply. You need it to underpin the financial health of the firm. So at the heart of it is the employees.
We're approaching the end of the interview, but until then, one of the key investments of Petrom is the Neptun Deep project, being the biggest offshore Romanian project. What is your feedback about Neptun Deep, given the fact that we will have elections soon, and we might have a new government?
So maybe just a moment about Neptun, because I think if we look at economic recovery, I think the oil and gas sector can play a really important role here in the economic recovery of Romania. And I think in that, particularly the Black Sea and the Black Sea resource potential. I highlight sort of three areas. First of all, I think is energy security. Studies have predicted that if we didn't develop the Black Sea resources by 2030, Romania will be importing 40% of its gas needs, which is a large number. And what actually the Black Sea can do is underpin the energy security of Romania. This also becomes important in the second factor, which is the economic side of it. When you develop a project of the scale of Neptun Deep, it comes with jobs. Obviously, when it comes on stream, it comes and pays taxes of that. When you import gas, you pay those jobs in another country. You pay those taxes in another country. So the importance of developing your own natural resources is very economically driven. And the third one, I think this is equally as important, is the climate change agenda. And I think as we see in the plans that have been laid out with regards to the energy and climate change plan for Romania, a clear need for an increase in the use of gas to be able to shift the mix of power, in particular, because gas is the lowest carbon fossil fuel of between oil, gas and coal. And therefore, there's a desire to increase the use of that in power generation as part of the energy transition overall. So the energy security, the economic benefits, as well as climate change, make this such a really important project and really important potential for Romania. So where are we? I think coming back to your question, I think there are key prerequisites that we need to see, and one of which is around the legislative side and the offshore law. What I think you have heard, as I have heard as well, and public statements have been made by the authorities, is that they will look to make the changes to the offshore law after the elections. So first of all, I think it's good to hear people saying they will change them. But I think you're right. We need to let the Romanians go to vote, a government be put in place. And then I think based on the timing that we can see, we would be keen to see something being put into Parliament when it opens in early 2021.
What's the investment in Neptun Deep? About how much money are we talking about?
Yeah. We haven't fully disclosed the numbers. I just say it is in the multi-billions. It is in the multi-billions. It's a big project. I mean, it's a big, important project in the deep water of the Black Sea, and they generally run into the multiple billions.
Billions of euros or RONs?
Euros.
And for instance, how much time are you willing to give to the Romanian authorities before you decide to abandon Neptun Deep?
Yeah, I think time is not on our side. I don't believe in the abandonment of Neptun Deep. I think that's not right for Petrom. I don't think that's right for Romania. I don't. And my job is to fight for the project that I think is right for the company, but I happen to think this one is very right for the country too. But time is not on our side, and time constantly weakens a project. And when we just talked about the gas needs of Romania in the future, we've talked about the economic needs of Romania going forward, and we know the needs of the climate change agenda. So the longer we wait, the more it hurts all three of those agendas for the country.
And the last two questions, Christina, given the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, almost 8 million future Romanian pensioners are indirectly investors in Petrom via pension funds, long-term investors, how do you see Petrom in 10 years and in 20 years?
First of all, I expect us to be a big gas producer in the Black Sea. A big gas producer in the Black Sea. That's a really important one, and I think that is part of the climate change agenda, as I said. And I think 10 years out, there'll be taxes being paid into the Romanian state and obviously distributed to the citizens through the different government schemes to support the country. Definitely, we would see that being materialized by then. I think the thing that we also see is what will be happening with regards to the mobility trend and what will happen to mobility and how are those trends changed. We've already announced putting electric vehicle chargers fast chargers into our filling stations. We will be continuing to do that and continuing to look at how the mobility trends will change and what we need to do. We're looking at co-processing, bio-blending, different ways that we can reduce the carbon footprint of our fuels for the combustion engines. Looking to see how we can use gas potentially in transportation as well. So there's multiple projects that we're looking at to say what does the long term look like of energy providing in Romania for OMV Petrom. We've been an energy provider to this country for many years in the past, and we will continue to be that in the future.
And speaking about mobility, do you think that the future is electric?
I think it's a combination. So when I talk to the folks who work in the automotive industry, they will talk about the combination. They'll talk about the combination of electric vehicles. They'll talk about CNG, LPG. They'll talk about the efficiency of the combustion engine and the hybrid. So I really do see it as it's a combination of different aspects of engines that will drive the mobility side.
So we're closing on a positive side. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the ZEF today's opening bell. We have with us Christina Verchere, the CEO of OMV Petrom. Christina, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, Libby.